Okay, let's talk about light bills. If you've ever paid one, you know it's not exactly the stuff of inspirational quotes. No one's crocheting "pay your electric bill" onto a decorative pillow. You send money to the electric company and, if all goes well, lights come on. That's it. Now imagine if the electric company operated like some churches. We've noticed you don't seem to appreciate our light enough. We're going to need you to start showing up at a monthly appreciation for illumination meeting, or we'll cut you off. Ridiculous, right? And yet, if we're honest, sometimes the church starts thinking like that. We start keeping track of who's paying the light bill of our ministry. We start asking whether what we're doing is worth it. But Jesus never says, "You are the light of the world," so long as people are paying for it. He just says, "Shine." Here's the tension. In the world's economy, you don't invest without expecting a return. You measure outcomes. You run the numbers. In the kingdom economy, light doesn't shine for profit. Light shines because light is. The early church didn't feed widows because it boosted attendance. They didn't welcome strangers because it increased their budget. They didn't heal because it was good PR. They did it because Jesus had lit them up, and it never occurred to them to send an invoice. Return on investment, ROI, is a useful concept if you're running a coffee shop. It's not so useful if you're trying to live like Jesus. Here's how ROI thinking sneaks into ministry. We should only start programs people will actually join. We'll help if they're open to hearing about Jesus. Let's not waste time on folks who won't change. ROI is just capitalism in a church suit. And capitalism is fine if you're running a bakery. But the gospel, that's a gift economy. The problem is that ROI thinking is comforting because it's measurable. Love, on the other hand, is infuriatingly unmeasurable. If Jesus ran a PR firm, he'd be terrible at it. The disciples are like, "Let's only feed the 5,000 if they promise to come back next Sabbath. Let's heal strategically, high visibility cases only. Let's get some miracle testimonials for the scrolls." And Jesus just doesn't play. He heals and feeds and loves with no guarantee anyone will follow him. Sometimes he even tells them not to spread the word. Because here's the thing, Jesus wasn't running a marketing campaign, he was bringing a light. Isaiah 58 is God's crash course on what real light looks like. The people are complaining, "God, look at all our fasting. Why aren't you impressed?" And God basically says, "You think I want more miserable religious people? Feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, end depression. Then your light will break forth like the dawn." In other words, light isn't a warm feeling in your heart. It's concrete action, and it costs you. Notice, Isaiah never adds, "and only do it if you get a good return." Paul says in Philippians 2, "Do everything without grumbling or arguing. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky." I love this because stars don't charge for light. They don't check who's looking. They just burn. It's what they do. And the more you think about it, the more you realize. If we're really plugged into the source, we don't have to ration the shine. Let's bring this down to street level. Here are some ways modern ROI-free light might look. A church opens its building during a snowstorm for anyone who needs warmth. No attendance spike, no new members, just warm people. That's the gospel. A congregation spends thousands fixing a neighbor's roof. That neighbor is an outspoken atheist. Doesn't matter. The roof doesn't leak anymore. That's the gospel. A youth group cleans up a park. No one says thanks. No press coverage. But kids play without broken glass in the grass. That's the gospel. If your light only shines where it's worth it, you're not a light. You're a flashlight for hire. This is hard because ROI thinking scratches a deep itch. The desire to know that our work matters. The challenge is, sometimes in God's economy, the payoff is invisible to us. You might mentor someone for years only to watch them walk away. You might pour yourself into a community that never thanks you. And sometimes, the harvest happens in someone else's field. Faithfulness means being okay with that. Here's the plot twist. You're not actually paying the light bill. God is. Your light doesn't come from your goodness, your budget, or your ability to work harder. It comes from the inexhaustible power of God. The moment we forget that, we start dimming the light to save on costs. But if the source never runs out, why are we acting like we have to hoard the shine? Practical steps to be light. 1. Check your motives. Before you serve, ask, am I doing this because it's faithful or because it benefits me? 2. Budget for unprofitable light. Literally set aside resources for ministries that will never pay off. 3. Celebrate the invisible wins. Tell stories of faithfulness without measurable outcomes. 4. Stay plugged in. Prayer, scripture, and community are not luxuries. They're your power source. 5. Choose inconvenient faithfulness. Serve in ways that cost you something without calculating the return. I once heard of a little church in a struggling neighborhood that opened its fellowship hall every weekday for kids to eat breakfast before school. No forms, no sermons, just pancakes. One day, a volunteer asked the pastor, "Do you think this will make them come to church?" The pastor said, "We're not doing it so they'll come to church. We're doing it so they can eat." Years later, one of those kids came back. Not to join, just to say, "When I was little, this was the only place I felt safe." That's light. You can't measure it in attendance charts. We're called to be light. Whether or not people are paying our light bill, not for ROI, not for recognition, not for a measurable payoff. We shine because the light of the world has lit us up. And that's what light does.